Hello and welcome to the From the Spirit World podcast, a legendary Avatar: The Last Airbender and the Legend of Korra podcast for overlyanimated.com. This is the From the Spirit World rewatch, the definitive Avatar fans rewatch from the biggest Avatar fans you know. We'll be reflecting on Avatar and Korra almost 20 years later after being huge fans of Avatar while it originally aired. I'm your host, Dylan, and today I'm joined by Mel.
Hello.
And Delaney.
Hey, y'all.
Today we have gotten to episodes 6, 7, and 8 for book 1 of Avatar on the FTSW rewatch. That is Imprisoned, Winter Solstice Part 1, The Spirit World, and Winter Solstice Part 2, Avatar Roku, which we'll be getting into. On this edition of the FTSW rewatch, you can find all of our podcasts on Avatar. Subscribe to one of many feeds to get the... all the From the Spirit World podcasts. You can search for From the Spirit World or Overly Animated to find either of those feeds or the FTSW Rewatch specific feed to get all of the podcasts. Also, we are on video at youtube.com/overlyanimated. Subscribe there to watch the video version of this, but it's just fine if you're listening to the audio only as well. We're going through these 3 episodes at a time, once a week, hopefully. So look for these every week throughout book 1, and we'll be in full spoiler territory for all of Avatar and Korra throughout this rewatch, regardless of what episodes are being discussed. So you are warned, spoilers for all of Avatar and Korra might be present here. And lastly, get in contact with us. You can send your questions and comments to podcast@overlyanimated.com. We're recording these at a time, so we're not going to comment on the next batch of episodes, but we can eventually read your comments and hear your feedback on this series. So
we love comments. We love questions.
Yes. Okay. So we've, as you just heard, this is Delaney's first appearance on the FTSW rewatch series with Anapa, if you're watching the video.
I'm alive.
Okay, good to know to start. That's step 1. Step 2 is tell us about your Avatar experience, Delaney. So what's it like rewatching Avatar in 2024? When was the last time you watched, and how is Avatar a part of your life now?
So I was thinking about this. I have had the DVDs for Avatar for ever. I'm talking, I bought them with Christmas money. This is a big investment. You get $60 a year, and
Did you watch said DVDs for the rewatch?
No, because I have Netflix and I can watch it, and I'm lazy and I don't want to put it.
I broke out the Blu-rays for this. Come on.
Well, so that's the thing. I have DVDs. I don't have Blu-rays. I do have Blu-rays of Korra.
Yeah,
and
so when we get there.
Reiterate how old these DVDs are. I have the full box set of Water, Earth, and then I actually don't have the set for Fire. I have individual DVDs.
Yeah, I remember
so it's
that's true.
This one, so there's 4 or 5 of them. And I do remember watching book 3 on the DVDs growing up. So at some point I did a rewatch. I can't tell you what it was. I have not done one in recent memory.
Okay.
So I guess the freshest thing would be we just watched the Netflix Avatar and the live action, and it's hard. And Jeff has mentioned this a couple times, and that's kind of the mindset I'm in. It's very easy to compare, and that's kind of where I'm at. A lot of my thoughts and feelings. But so 2024, I was 9, having a crush on Zuko. And I'm talking ponytail Zuko. I am an OG Zuko fangirl. Everyone's oh, he's so cute in book 3. I was give me ponytail Zuko. That's my man. And I did watch. So I know Mel was seated for the premiere, or at least the day after when they redid the premiere of Avatar. I don't know about book 1. I know I watched it. I came back either just for book 3 or somewhere late book 2. I remember having to catch up on Nick.com when you could actually watch TV shows on websites. And I got caught up. I watched all of book 2 Earth on Nick.com.
Okay.
And I watched the week-long finale, the lead up to the finale of Avatar. So, and I remember there was confusion. Is it the series finale? Is it the season finale? But that week leading up to the book 3 finale, I watched all of that. It was a big deal. In my room, I had, ultimate child privilege. I had a TV with cable in my room. This was an off and on thing growing up. My bed's against the wall. at the foot of my bed is my, I have a hand-me-down TV stand and a hand-me-down TV. I am over the edge. My finger is on the power button watching the finale. If Zutara happens, I am turning the television off.
You were thinking Child Delaney was like, Zutara might be happening right now.
I was like, my first email was katanger@gmail.com. Like, I was shipping before katanger.com. Yeah, like, my dad's, I did karate, and my dad's like, kata anger, and I'm like, no, that's not what it is, Dad. It's not. And so, which he had to make for me because I'm like 10. Like, that was my first email. I was on the Nick.com forums. I didn't post anything, but I'm like reading. I'm like, who are these crazy people who ship Zutara? I was like mad about it. I was like, this is a threat. This is like the worst thing that could happen.
How does that align
Delaney.
with your early Zuko fangirldom, though?
Okay, so like it's just so So we're talking, book one, Zuko.
Did you want Zuko to yourself, or had you changed since book one? Okay.
I had changed. I mean, they introduced Toph, and I was like, I'm Toph. Toph is the best character that has ever graced television. I still believe this.
Mm-hmm.
Love Toph. But no, by the time we're in book 3, I am like a rabid Katang shipper. Like, I am going to like fight people on the Nick.com forums. People are saying stuff, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? I am just like, no, absolutely not allowed. I guess I just wanted Zuko to myself. I don't know. Maybe I just wanted to share. Maybe it was gender envy. Maybe
what's changed now, Delaney, since the early...
Delaney's gay and non-binary. Like, I just wanted to look hot in Agni Kai. That's really what this boiled down to. Like, I just wanted to be Zuko. Honestly, I don't know. I don't think I could rock the ponytail. No one can rock it. And then also, my hair would have to be long for that.
And then later on, Delaney joins the Dong Lu Feng Fray during Korra. So we'll get to that, when we talk about fandom stuff, maybe. But that's interesting hearing it. And you're a little bit younger than us by a few years, so you are even more of a child watching Avatar originally.
Look, yes, I was. So I'm actually you guys were Aang's age. I was younger, so it was so I had my experience later watching characters that were really, Korra was that for me, was watching characters who were my age. So yeah, because I'm a little baby. I had Agni Kai's growing up, and we were in the living room, and we're like, it's like, no, I dodged that, like barrel rolling into the couch. Like, and my brother is a couple years younger than me, but my whole family likes Avatar. My parents aren't as high on Korra, mainly because I was 16 and annoying, and they were like, stop watching this. But whole family likes Avatar. They know all about it.
Okay. Good stuff from Delaney. Jump in at any point as you remember more things, but we got the basic backstory there. And Mel and I were on the first one, gave our backstories already with Avatar. I guess we can quickly go Delaney, I forgot to ask Allie. Delaney, what bender are you? Just to get it out of the way.
I'm an earthbender, though I could also be firebender.
This is the Toph fandom.
Yes, Toph fandom, and also, there's always been tests. Like, there's been like a million thousand. For me, it's more the martial art, which Mel and I are both black belts in the same martial art, and it's more like they actually pulled, like, I had like the little books. There's like, here's the water book, the earth book, the fire book, the air book, that like gave a little bit more information about like the nations. These are like little, like, they're like, we marketed these to children. These like little books.
Interesting.
And I wish I had it.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, no, we had. So my brother and I had those. We were like, drawing art and stuff from them. But these were where they pulled a lot of the earthbending and firebending movements from Shotokan karate, and it's very similar.
Cool.
And of course, a lot of the bending they pulled from different martial arts. Like,
we can talk about that in more detail at some point. Okay, cool. Let's start to transition to these 3 episodes themselves. We've got Imprisoned, written by Matthew Hubbard, directed by Dave Filoni. Matthew Hubbard, one-off writer. He's now co-creator of Loot on Apple TV, which I don't watch, but pretty... I
don't think I've heard of that.
Pretty...
Loot with 2 O's or with a U?
With 2 O's, yes. But so a big writer now. We have Winter Solstice Part 1, The Spirit World, written by Aaron E. Haas, directed by Lauren McMullen. Winter Solstice Part 2, Avatar Roku, written by Michael Dante DiMartino, directed by Giancarlo Volpe. Settling into the more of the regular crew, I think, starting with the Solstice. Mel, what was it like rewatching these 3 episodes for you?
I mean, I remember being annoyed with Imprisoned when it first aired, and I think it was probably the Katang in me being like, get this dude out of here.
Such a threat, Haru. Apparently.
But he's also watching it now, I'm like, this dude's he's got no personality. He's nothing. He's like a walking plot device. But I mean, it is one of the, I was actually saying earlier today, because I ended up watching The King of Amashu, and is that the one?
Yeah, it was right before these, yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up watching that and then immediately started watching this, and I actually really don't like The King of Amashu. People don't like The Great Divide. I don't like The King of Amashu.
That didn't play. It didn't play for me well this rewatch.
Yeah, it annoys me, but but going from that to this, where you kind of get the stretch of more serious world building, thematic episodes, was it's actually kind of refreshing, minus the part that I find Haru just a non-entity. Also, I think Katara comes across as kind of not fantastic in this episode.
We can talk about that.
She is a previous wave of feminism. It does not play well in this.
Yeah, she definitely. I remember thinking that I was like, wow, she actually is responsible for a lot of bad stuff that's going. She comes in these people's lives
kind of forcing herself
like a wrecking ball. But yeah, so those were my main overarching thoughts while I was watching it.
That's not Katara in your background, right? That's just a random girl.
But this one here?
So, yeah, that way, yeah.
Yeah, it's just some...
Kind of looks like Katara.
It does look like Katara. They were like, what if we made Fire Nation?
And I guess Katara's trying to dress up in modern Earth, Fire Nation girl look, so I guess it makes sense.
When she... What's her alias?
Oh, yeah, I don't remember. We're gonna... Don't ask me. It's been 10 years. Okay. Delaney, what did you think of rewatching these 3 episodes?
So I remember watching originally. I hate this episode. I was stressed at having to rewatch it.
Which one? Imprisoned?
Yeah. Imprisoned. I didn't want to deal with this. I hate Haru. I didn't want to deal with it. I hate him. We start the episode, and I'm like, Haru is a sweet gentleman. He is doing. There's not even any threat to Katang here. Why was I mad about
It's not even really
this?
romantic. Yeah.
It's not.
No, she has one blush, I think, at the end of the episode,
and it's fine. There's no this. You were correct.
It wasn't Jet levels.
No, Jet'll be something else. So
yeah, we can't do this right now. Don't trigger me.
We'll get there. Don't worry.
But so I was like, oh, this is fine. I did wait to watch this with my wife. So Tanya has seen not all of Avatar, the original animated series, but she knows some stuff. She didn't have cable growing up. We did watch the live action all together, but I wanted her to watch this episode because this Haru is not in the live action, and I was like, she needs to see cute Earthbender boy. It's a whole thing,
I have to
expose my wife to
the show.
And she's like, he's so cute. He's a precious baby. I don't have any problems with this. Also, my wife loves Momo. There's a lot of Momo and Sokka shenanigans in these 3 episodes. My wife was loving it. It's also these 3 episodes again. For me, this whole rewatch, how I've been feeling is the Netflix adaptation is very accurate and by the book, but it has no soul to it. There's no heart. There's none of Avatar is a very lighthearted show. We do get now. Granted, Imprisoned is a very, actually, these 3 episodes are very serious, like Mel said, but. And Imprisoned, we're really starting to dig into the Fire Nation occupation, what has been happening for 100 years. This is the realities of the war that Aang has to deal with, and then of course the destruction of the forest. And the Netflix adaptation just doesn't have any of that. So unfortunately, I'm going to be watching. This is just going to make my opinion of the Netflix adaptation just go down. Granted, it is. I still have to give it to the adaptation for like the Iroh and Zuko, which I'm of course loving in the rewatch. My wife right now is like, I don't know who my favorite character is, which we haven't even gotten to Toph yet, but she loves.
And you got
like,
it.
is it Toph or yeah, we gotta wait. Of course, Iroh is. My wife couldn't stop. She's like, he's been naked this whole time. Like he's just naked this whole episode. And I'm like, yep, it's good stuff. And also, yes, and also like kind of the subtleties that. So this is kind of, going back, watching something like Avatar, and kind of comparing to a lot of the other shows that we have covered on Overly Animated and shows that I've watched. We have lost a lot of subtleties. Like everything just has to be ham-fisted, like in your face all the time now. It feels like even in the Netflix adaptation, everything was just like we have to say everything. All the exposition has to be out loud. We have to read it to you for 20 minutes, or like any emotional anything. We have to say it explicitly. Versus, it really hit me when there's just that very brief scene. Aang, well, it's not even Aang. It's Appa flying overhead, and Zuko. It's like, okay, I can go forward and look for my uncle, or I can chase the Avatar, and it's very brief.
It's much more of a subdued moment in here than the Netflix show. They made it a whole thing.
Yes. Which
and it was a good moment in the Netflix show, but yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, it's a lot of, and I think, and it's not just the Netflix adaptation. I think it's all television. It's like, I don't know if we just lost media literacy or if it was just.
Especially that type of like Netflix streaming drama, Yeah.
Yeah. Just that kind of thing in general, like, I think has been lost, which, this is a different conversation than like, explicit representation and that kind of stuff. But like, we can have storytelling without you being like, here's all of this. I'm going to read spoon-fed dialogue.
There's like no trust for the audience in streaming at this point, because there's this, they call it like competing with the second screen or something like that, because they assume at this point everyone is watching Netflix or whatever, and also on their computer or on their phone. So the idea is like, people aren't actually paying attention with any depth, so we have to be like really in your face with stuff for them to get it. Otherwise they won't get it, and they'll be pissed and they'll stop watching.
That's interesting.
I think it's definitely something like that.
The way that manifested for me, I talked about this last podcast. The lore buildup of this early part of Avatar has really stood out to me. That in a way that I feel like we didn't really appreciate originally, just because I guess we like at that week watched it and then it, but now I'm watching somewhat from fresh, and I'm like maybe more appreciating how they're sprinkling in all these details of the world and all the paths of the characters. It is pretty subtle and pretty like drawn out throughout the course of these first 8 episodes, I think, in a really good way. And I agree, Imprisoned's like just the aspect of this is the kind of state of the Earth Kingdom and an example of Fire Nation occupying them and what happens to these people. I don't think I ever really appreciated how that functions in a world building sense, just because it's kind of the first time we're seeing these types of things in the show.
And like through Aang's eyes, like he, obviously Qatar and Sokka were at the South Pole, but Aang, this was not with the world Aang grew up in. And I think that's, I think something we've also like forgotten as fans, and of course as the show has been out for a very long time. We watched it when we were younger, and then we watched Korra. It's easy to take things for granted, like you were saying about world building. Like, we just know this because we watched it and we've consumed so much media, and all this. And when you're so deep into a fandom, I think it's hard to like appreciate the world building, and like also taking for granted things like people didn't believe in the Avatar anymore. Like, Sokka makes a lot of comments throughout the series.
Yeah, we get everyone's reactions to the Avatar, then we get the sages and how they saw the light, and
we'll deal with it in the storm. Like, there's a lot of there's still a lot of like myths and legends, and I think this also kind of gets bogged down a little bit with Korra, even because we take for granted that the main character is the Avatar. We know the Avatar is real, but like, in the greater world, it's like, I don't know, do I believe in the Avatar, and how much that means for the Avatar to come back, for there to be hope in the world again. So I think that kind of hits a little different. Like, I think you can take that for
I feel like some people in the show aren't as shocked as they thought they should have been when it was like, oh yeah, he's the Avatar, and they like take it so casually. But I'm like, okay, maybe I guess word gets around or whatever.
Yeah, at this point, yeah, we saw that word gets around sequence in Kyoshi. and now we know that they lit up the temples, but yeah, not everyone's gonna know from that, but yeah, they do make an attempt to try to get the sense of it going to everyone. But it is interesting.
Which I thought was really funny how they did it in the Netflix adaptation, because then Zuko's like, "Are you for real?" Like, everybody knows now. Everyone in the stupid bar knows. The Avatar's
He did write about it in his journal.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, the journal.
So these 3 episodes, I got the sense that this is kind of it felt like the start of modern Avatar with the Solstice, the 2-parter. It felt like it felt like this is the Avatar I know in a few different ways. A lot of, I mean, that part 1, it's big for Iroh's backstory. It starts to be the Iroh we know. Obviously, somewhat in episode 3 as well. The like more of the frenetic action pace. I thought the action was much more fast paced than previously. A lot of slow bending, I felt like before. Not M. Night-esque, I'm not saying that, but maybe a little bit less frenetic than we start seeing in the Solstice. So I really felt like it's Avatar. I don't know if it's really finding its footing because, like last podcast I said episodes 3 and 4 are some of the best episodes of the show. It's just a little bit more of what this show comes to be known for, it felt like.
Avatar is just so peak. It's hard, to like compare it to other things, and it's so.
I thought episodes 6 and 7 were, or episodes 7 and 8, the 2-parter. They were pretty good, but I don't have a ton of feelings about them. We can get into it, but I don't remember either loving or hating that. Like they're good. So that matched my reaction. That being said,
I mean, I would die for Hey Bye.
Hey Bye. Yeah. Hey Bye was fine. He didn't do as much as I remember. But okay.
Oh, so the episode starts, and my wife's like, "Is this the one with the scary face guy?" And I'm like, "No, the show did it wrong."
Yeah, no, he's not yet.
They did make
not yet.
They did make Ko the Hey Bye of the.
Yeah. Well, I think they threw Ko in with all this stuff in this 2-parter. Okay, but we've reached my first huge change in opinion on Avatar from when I was younger. Huge change.
Wow.
And that is, I loved Imprisoned. Oh my gosh, I loved this episode. And I hated this episode. I don't know really why. I mean, I guess I get it.
It's literally Katang. We all have Katang brain rot, and we were like,
and it was the first hot guy that was on there.
I must have just hated Haru from that. And I get like, is it like the perfect episode? The obvious big flaw is it's like a very typical story, like a very trite or very maybe you could say it's stale. And even to us at I feel like 14, we're like, okay, I've seen this before. It felt familiar, but honestly, at this point, I guess I care less about that because I've seen so many more episodes and stories, and it's like, okay, now I've seen almost every story at least a few times. So seeing this story for the 50th time versus this other story for the 5th time doesn't necessarily affect me as much. I'm like, okay, everything's kind of familiar. So the familiarity of this didn't hurt it a lot for me. I guess it prevents it from being like maybe one of the best episodes of the show, but honestly, everything else about Imprisoned, oh my gosh, it was a gorgeous episode. The animation was amazing. I didn't remember that they just go all out for that. And part of it's that it's a JM animation episode, so we got the better company, but it looks incredible. There's some great action stuff at the end, and I really appreciated how this was a great episode for Katara's character. This is the big Katara episode early on in the show, and
she gets everyone arrested.
It's bold moves going on here, but she gets a big speech. She's the main character of the episode. Something that really stood out to me watching it was Aang is like perfectly positioned as the side character in Imprisoned. He's like the comic relief.
He's the hype guy.
I feel like it's a move that a lot of Avatar episodes aren't capable of making, kind of sidelining Aang like that. And it really pays off for Katara early on. And, this further cemented in my mind as I then started to watch episode 7 right after this. And Katara just goes right back to, she goes to being like a stay-at-home, soon-to-be girlfriend in that. Yeah. It's like she doesn't do anything in the 2-parter. Oh my goodness.
If it helps,
Sokka also sidelines. That's fine, but it's just
he's sidelined in a cooler way.
He's sidelined in a cooler way, yeah. I mean, Katara literally, she's just there for Aang's support. I hope that is the most like stereotypical girlfriend like position she's in the show. I hope that doesn't keep happening. I don't remember. But I don't know. It just made her role in Imprisoned stand out to me even more. I liked Haru. I'll be the Haru stan. I mean, there's nothing really to stan. I kind of agree. He's kind of nothing, but he's a pleasant young man. You know, like
he's like truly just there.
Yeah. He's
a guy who's
I just all I think about when I see him is his stupid mustache.
That comes later.
Okay. Don't you spoil?
That's all I got. How do I spoil the mustache? How do you? That is like
it's not
just imprinted in my brain.
Mine. But I like Haru and him and Katara. They have a beautiful scene on the sunset. It's just gorgeously animated. I don't know. The world building aspects also, like the setup of the Earth Kingdom struggle, Fire Nation really there, them like imprisoning people. I mean, it's like taking their most powerful away. It's, you know, also resonant, you know, in now day and age with real world stuff, of course. And again, it's all kind of typical, but I do think it emotionally landed for me. Another thing I felt like this episode is the setup for metal bending. We start off here.
I'm watching this, like, the episode, and I'm like, if Toph was here, like, this place would be flat.
I don't know if they played off of this episode in order and they like later found metal bending, but this is like totally an amazing precursor to what's to come later. Sets up the ultimate thing Earthbenders can't do is metal. So I feel like this episode is I used to think, filler episode, dumb Haru episode. I think this is a key early Avatar episode that I really did not appreciate when we were kids.
I don't know. I feel like it also kind of sets up the Fire Nation guard. Like, we have the weird warden, George Takei, which is also
very funny. George Takei, the warden's hilarious.
Also, like, the fact that he's in charge of, like, this earthbending internment camp is, like, was he, like, how does he feel about this? Did that click, man? I don't know.
We have a role for you.
We have which he got to be weird and funny.
It was perfect.
So, like, maybe that's all he's about, which is fun.
Welcome to the
reach. Watching it, my wife's like, who is this?
Whatever he says.
Like, so, and then, I can't swim, and then just the pure
cowards float. Yeah, there was some dialogue in here that it was like,
good.
That's a good.
It's so fine, good. But it's like,
you know, I hear and it wasn't just.
I hear he's throwing people overboard. I hear cowards float, and then he can't swim at the end. You know, like everything's very in your face, intentionally written, and I can see how it would be definitely too much. For whatever reason, it just all resonated with me on this viewing. What do you think, Mel? Were you more in or out on Imprisoned than previously?
I can take the Katara stuff because I do think that is a good point. Like, it's sort of the first episode she gets, and it's like one of the few I think she gets where she's not fighting some sort of patriarchal situation too. Like, if I think of the other ones where she's a standout, it's her, you know, versus Paku, and it's like other situations where she's sort of having to, like, you know, the fact that she's a woman plays heavily into whatever's going on in the episode.
She just seamlessly takes the typical male role in this sort of story.
Mm-hmm.
This feels like the Painted Lady Part 1.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so I also just stand the Painted Lady when we get.
It'll be interesting.
I love that episode so much. I will like die defending that episode. So that's also, I kind of, what you're talking about, like the seeds are planted. Like, was this what they were going for? I don't know.
I mean, it is interesting trying to put myself in the mindset of like, okay, watching for the first time, like getting to know these characters and stuff, and just sort of like watching them, you know, like start to develop them on the page essentially and on the screen. Because I mean, the pieces are there, but like, knowing later, like, yeah, like Katara actually gets like really funny later on in a way that she's not right now, because she's like filling, like, you know, all the characters are filling specific roles because, like, you know, that's how they were designed and developed at the beginning. It's like, okay, here's the, you know, the sidekick warrior who is, you know, masculine comedic relief. Here's the, you know, the goofy reluctant trickster hero. You know, they're all sort of like filling these roles, and then, you know, as the show goes on, you know, I imagine we'll see this, but like knowing where they end up versus seeing them here now, it's just like, yeah, like they do get the ability to sort of come into their own, and I do think this is probably an early episode for Katara to be able to do that. So
especially like juxtaposition with something I noticed, which I definitely didn't. I don't think I noticed other than when they like told me when I was watching the show. Is like like there's a lot of scenes where Katara is doing something like very I don't want to say it. I don't know, like housekeepery.
Domestic.
Like
Domestic,
she's
yeah.
doing like
Domestic.
domestic. Thank you. I was like, there's a word for this. I don't know what it is, but yeah, thank
Appa
you.
is still on your
I just
shoulder.
forgot. Appa, yes, here's Appa. He's been here this whole time. He is. I got him when I was 12. This is a very old plush. She's so when she's sewing Sokka's pants, that's a big one. But also, I think it's Imprisoned, or it might be when they're about to land in the forest. She's like folding up a blanket, and Aang's like being annoying in the background, like a lot of stuff like that. Yeah, I think they're waiting. Yes, this is right before Haru comes in. I think she's like folding up a blanket. Maybe she was washing it, something like that. And then Sokka's like, "I got 5 nuts."
Oh yeah, he's like
today."
hunter gathering out in
Yeah.
the wilderness.
Yeah, it's an interesting start to the episode too. But yeah, I get we get stuff with Katara's mom backstory here. She gets to talk with Haru about it, and they relate, and then she gets to kind of take action based on that. She's inserting herself into this and trying to solve it, and very very much being like the protagonist, and it just definitely stands out to me, especially for this time of your female lead getting to have this type of story. So yeah, I don't know. I think we do get Katara stuff like this a lot more later on. I hope at least. But at least for early Avatar, I think this is a pretty important Katara moment here. Yeah, I mean, just so. How about from this Momo, not Momo, but Katara fake earthbending, and then it's the lemur. It's earthbending.
No,
I remember being annoyed by that. I thought it was hilarious. This feeling, I thought it was really funny.
No, it plays well.
I
said
I also-
earthbending
yeah
style.
yeah.
like watching the I remember watching the Netflix adaptation that like try like Momo does stuff, and I guess I'd forgotten that like Momo was like the best character in
Can we
like
talk
he's
about
always
Momo for
doing
1 second?
stuff.
We didn't mention Momo's introduction last podcast in the episode 3.
How?
So
It's
we get Momo's intro. Here's what I want to know: why did it's like, oh, what's Momo's name? Oh, Momo, after he does something, and it's like we're supposed to understand why that is his name is Momo.
Because Momo means peach,
means-
and he steals a peach
It means
from
right,
Sokka's hand.
but it's not like people watching that know that. So
No,
I
how
thought
are
that's
you
an
supposed to
interesting
know
move. Momo can also mean dumpling, but
You
I guess
wanna
they're
know
going for
when-
the peach definition. Yeah,
You want to
it's-
know when I learned this? My mom named my parents' Animal Crossing island. When did that come out? 2019.
Yeah,
That's
like
when
a
I
big
learned
thing.
Momo
Yes.
means peach. Because that my parents had peaches on their island. By the way, my dad still plays to
I
this
still
day. That
play.
man
Wasn't
lives on that game.
Momo like a creepypasta or something recently, or some sort of online cryptid for the children? And it was like a
But yeah,
not this Momo, like it was like something called Momo, but it was supposed to be like
Oh.
one of those like
but yeah, peach in Japanese.
moral
Aang's-
panics.
Yeah, I don't know. Wrong people you're asking that about, but Aang names him seemingly knowing Japanese. Anyway, the great Momo stuff here. The warden finds someone I haven't thrown overboard. Great stuff with is it a buffalo or a bison? I thought that was great too. So.
I like that
It's
too. That
funny.
was good.
It's got the world building drama. I don't know. I'm like, so look, I've unearthed my episode rankings from a long time ago. I originally had Imprisoned as number 56, the 5th worst episode of Avatar
I was gonna say out of how
out
many?
of 60, not including chorus. So I'm moving Imprisoned
so
up
low.
to at least the top 30, if not the top 25.
Ooh.
Like.
That is a big deal.
I mean, maybe I'll be higher on a lot of episodes to come. Who knows? But this is the first time
all
I've just
just
like
wrapped
completely
up.
seen an episode in a new light here. Yeah.
I will say, I feel this is not going to be how it works when I see Jet. No, I'm going to like hate him.
I mean, I think I
for the rest
think I
of my life.
appreciated the Jet episode. I think we hate Jet, but it's like a good episode is how we felt. But we'll see.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one too. I don't know. How about end of the episode? Zuko picks up Katara's
The
necklace.
necklace.
My wife just to get on my nerves. This happens. She starts screaming, Zutara, Zutara, and I'm like, I'm gonna get up and like attack you. Like you gotta stop
this. Is this the first Zutara scene of Avatar?
I honestly think the big one, it's going to be the pirate.
It's going to be the pirate. So we'll talk about it more next time.
Waterbending Scroll. I want you to know that I'm like heavily anticipating this episode because I love it so much. Like I'm ready.
Yeah.
Waterbending
So we'll talk more then. But yeah, of note, the maybe the genesis of Zutara to some extent here. At least this arc, which I think is followed up in Waterbending Scroll. Yeah, just and I like that ending to the episode too. I think that's really interesting. Way to go with Katara's mom and the necklace.
It's also like he holds on to that necklace for so long.
When did she get back?
I didn't realize.
Yes,
she gets it back in Bato.
That's pretty long. Yeah, I mean, I guess she just doesn't have it for the Solstice episode. So interesting.
Yeah.
Do we want to get into Zutara at all here, Mel? You're the resident expert, so we could save it for next time, or we could start to talk about.
I think the Waterbending Scroll's got to be the one where you sort of, because I have to imagine that was the episode that like launched 1,000 ships or whatever.
I was like blissfully unaware of this until like the Nick forums, and then I was like, I'm gonna fight
permeated the Nick.com forums as well.
Yes, and then so when they're doing the fight in the finale, and I'm like, if Zutara happens right now, I'm
see. That's how we felt about. That's how we felt about Makora in the Korra finale, but
they pulled a fast one.
Zutara would have been even a bigger surprise than what happened in the Korra finale. You would think. But to us, it was real. The threat. We'll talk. This is what we'll talk about. The threat was real. Like we were actually like.
Yeah. Oh, the threat. The threat was so real, and then it was like...
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about Katang in these episodes then, because not huge Katang episodes, but we get 107. So I will say, Solstice Part 1. This was the first Avatar I watched. I believe the first scene I remember was Aang in the spirit world trying to talk to Katara in 107, which in my mind, I'm like, wow. This is when I started shipping Katang, when I started loving Avatar. It's this huge romantic scene. I go back and I rewatch it this episode. It's nothing. The scene is nothing. It's not really romantic at all. It's
Look, life's wild when you're
everything's
12,
very intense when you're a kid. Like this was a big shock too, that this scene was much less than I remember it being. It's still nice that he's trying to talk to Katara, but also it's like kind of colored by this viewing. I'm like pissed at the role of Katara in this episode, and yeah, she's just there for like Aang to like long to come back to.
She's
and,
brushing off.
But yeah, that's a scene. I mean, I think more importantly, we have. So I'll be back. Katara, Aang says to her, is kind of the big thing before he leaves there. And then at the beginning of episode 8, Katara says to Aang, the world can't afford to lose you to the Fire Nation. Neither can I. Yeah, very dramatic.
They like play
big Katang line. Katara can't afford to lose Aang. What do we think?
Oh, we do this all the time. It's great. A+.
I mean, it does feel like It's interesting because I was fully prepared to go into this thinking like, oh, we've read too much into this early stuff. I didn't think that they really tried to commit to anything with that until much later in season 1, if not, just in the beginning of season 2. But there is some stuff where it's like, oh yeah, like that was an unnecessary line that feels like it only really serves like one purpose.
I'd known you for 5 days and I would die.
I mean, especially Warriors of Kyoshi, a ton of romantic jealousy stuff they're going for in that episode. But even outside of the Katang designated Katang spaces, those episodes, yeah, they throw in these lines, I think, for sure. We got some big hugs the previous set of episodes. So far it's been a pretty consistent presence, even if it's just this kind of one line at the beginning of 8. It's been pretty consistent, I think, so far with the small amount of Katang. Delaney, how are you feeling? I'm asking this question, Evan. Are you shipping Katang as much as when we were younger?
It's a good question. It's hard to like. So like I have always like Katang is always like number 1 in my heart. So I don't. It's hard to say. I mean, I'm definitely watching this like Katang, like boo.
Do you think it's like a nostalgic type reaction or a you would. I think
Probably.
we might ship Katang now too, because I think we can sometimes like the like cute little ships, you know, in these types of shows. So
Oh, they're adorable. You know, it's kind of like, you know, like watching the Owl House. Like Luz and Amity are like so precious. Like so. That's how I feel about this. Like this isn't like Rabid Life or
Luz
Death,
and Amity
but
is
like they're
Katang.
adorable.
That's interesting. Kind of. I mean, there's a shared voice actor,
They're
so that
young.
helps. But yeah.
It's so funny. Like yes. I like mentioned that to my wife, and she's like, "What?" And I was like, "Yep, it's the same voice actor."
Yeah. Anyway, so it's any other Katang thoughts here throughout?
For big one, I feel like is at I think it's the end of Solstice Part 2.
Oh yeah, and then they get the big hug.
And the main reason
this Solstice Part 2 ends with a gorgeous. I
Yes.
didn't remember this. Just a gorgeous shot of the
Yes.
shadow of the moon, and then Katara goes to hug Aang, and in that shot, yeah.
And then my wife's like, "Is this what they're always playing on the Kalimbas
And we
online?" And I'm like,
the,
"Yes."
into the nighttime sky or whatever. Yeah, during that. Yep.
Great. So that's the main reason I remember it is because she made that comment. Watching with my wife is a trip. It's great what she like decides to like focus on.
Yeah. So yeah. So there's the. How about any strong thoughts on either of the Winter Solstice episodes? Particularly like or not like either of them?
I think they're fine. I've always like latched onto the scene where like they like try to fake firebend. I just always thought that was neat, and the fire stages and like I don't know. It always felt real, I don't know. I always think stuff like that's cool. But like growing up, I was like, yeah, this is we have to get there. The solstice and the clock. I do think it's really funny how they have to explain it to him. And my wife's like, "Do you get it yet, you dum dum?" Like they spend a long time explaining how this works. And my wife's like, do you get it yet?" I was like, "Yeah, I don't think this felt a little unnecessary." But it's also like it's like Y7 show, so it makes sense that they had to explain it the way they did. But I always like that. It's a big moment to meet Roku, which I think I felt more this time than the first time I watched. It's also the anticipation. Also, we meet the dragon for the first time, and we also get the intro to Iroh. Iroh can see Aang.
Yeah, that is true. Do we follow up on that? We'll see. Yeah, Mel, what do you think? Any strong take on either of these two?
I remember really liking when I was younger, part 2, like being really into that just because it was the first big episode of its kind in the show. Like, you meet Roku, it's the first time you're in the Fire Nation at all. It's the when, Aang comes out of the room and it's like Roku, and it's like the only time we ever see some like the Avatar state sort of rendering itself in that way, I think, where he like physically turns into Roku. That never comes back, but
I guess Kyoshi in season 2, Kyoshi will inhabit him.
A little bit.
So we'll see. And the Netflix show created its own rules around this, but I don't know if this.
Yep. Also, the running the blockade.
That scene, I thought that probably the best scene of the episode. I thought that was some really good action.
I mean, and my wife the whole time she's like, "Why don't they just fly higher?" And I'm like, "Can you just shut up?
Catch
Like,
Sokka, so then they went low again, and then
I did find it funny that Zuko was like shocked that this maritime border had a blockade during wartime. He was like, "Oh my god, I didn't think about this."
Oh, and then he's like, "Oh," and then you're like, "Oh, it was really funny." So like, they're like about to run into the room, and then like. And then you find out Zuko like grabs Aang, and then my wife's like, "No!"
That's a pretty shocking moment that Zuko made it there. That's really pretty well done.
It is, and then it's even better with like when Zhao shows up, and it's like, "Oh, you think your smokescreen
some pretty
works?"
dramatic stuff. Yeah.
I remember Dylan, you being a huge Zhao guy.
Oh, you think so, huh? I got.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, I got.
Oh, you got it. Yes, show him off.
Zhao Funko Pop. She sent me so.
Look at those lamb chops.
The only reason they made this was for Dylan.
I'm the only one who has this. I brought out last podcast too. But so yeah, speaking of Zhao, we find he was in episode 3, not again until episode 8 here. I thought a little bit of an underwhelming Zhao episode, this part 2. He does get that cool moment of, you think your smoke screen worked. I like his smart moment of let him go by, then we'll follow him. I think it's a good move. So I don't really understand why Zhao is leading this blockade after previously not doing this. It seems to be a role change for him.
Also, he was stationed somewhere in the Earth
I
Kingdom,
guess he's
wasn't
changing
And
in
then
order to
just
try to
like, "Here, you're
position
over here."
himself to find the Avatar, but they don't really get into that. He doesn't do a ton. He has some cool smirks. I think I'll put in the thumbnail. But it's some good Zhao stuff. I think the best Zhao material is still to come here.
Obvious. Oh, I told my wife that you love Zhao, and she's like, "Why?" Like,
Why
she was
not?
real mad.
I will say I did not get to. I wasn't on this episode, so I didn't get to express the Agnikai with Zuko and Zhao. Like watching it back is like, why do the beefy boys need to be shirtless to wrestle?
It's important. It's
important. It is part of their culture.
You have
Mel.
to
They have to be
fan
shirtless
service in this children's show.
I was like, wow, this is
You have to-
very homoerotic.
If you want to get burnt, you have to
And look,
expose
Zhao looked
your
amazing.
body.
That's part
You
of the
should get
reason
hate,
why you should stand
honestly.
Zhao. It's the part the Netflix show didn't capture as much as raw, whatever you want to say.
His raw whatever
masculinity.
whatever it is he has.
Yeah, it's I like that. And then he's like simultaneously.
For me, it's like the grown
And then
man
also,
and this
yeah,
like
it's funny.
16-year-old boy.
I like I think there's a lot to like with Zhao early on. He's tactical, and also like physically imposing, and he's a multifaceted villain. But I want to see more, so we'll see. I mean, I know no more is coming with Zhao, but more intrigue.
I also love when Zuko's like, "Did you mean that, Uncle?"
That's
So
nice.
sweet.
In episode 3. So I think originally I have my episode rankings. I ranked 107 slightly higher than 108. I explained the 107 last podcast, by the way, that we're tryhards with the production codes. But I had the opposite reaction this time. I definitely liked part 2 a fair amount more than part 1. I thought part 1 was fairly ho-hum. I think the village is like extremely nondescript in part 1. I was pretty pissed at Katara's role in the episode. And I think the Iroh stuff is good, but part 1 is very expository. I think part 2 gets into a lot more action stuff, which is needed. Part 2 is also fairly expository, so I think you could argue earlier episodes did this sort of thing better than maybe this 2-parter. But I thought part 2 worked better for me. And all the Heibai stuff, it's a lot less than I remember. It's just kind of like he's there, and then Aang gives him the acorn.
I was just really attached to that episode growing
me too.
up.
Yeah.
Which is part. Yeah, I was like really upset when the Netflix adaptation did it because like honestly, the acorn scene to me is like a way bigger deal than they made it in the adaptation.
I don't think
know,
Heibai should have been
is,
placated by the one acorn.
Just like, oh,
that's fair. Yeah. I agree
good one acorn.
That's it. And I like Katara explaining that to Aang and him using that. But again,
it's also funny because Mom was in the background like shoving like 80 acorns into his mouth when this conversation's happening.
It's like when Grogu ate all those like those weird in whatever season of The Mandalorian, he's like eating those like weird blue eggs that were like the eggs that belonged to some couple, like alien couple. It reminded me of that.
Is it like how Luke has pork milk? Is that what that's like?
Yeah. No, it's just like he's like it's like Momo's eating the acorns, which are a symbol of the regrowth of the forest, and Grogu's eating this family's like literal bank of embryos, essentially. But yeah, it was also very. It felt very like almost Princess Mononoke a little bit with the environmental aspect to it and like the crazy design on Angry Heibai.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, I did want to say I'm granted unless you want to talk about it in a minute. The animation. So how I feel about it, looking back. So for me, obviously this is dated. It's, quote unquote. My wife was like, "This looks rough." And I was like, "Shut up." Shh. But for me, it feels like watching Nausicaa. Mm-hmm. That's how it feels to me.
A beautifully like hand-animated older property, yeah.
Yes. Which for me now, so like when I watch Nausicaa, it's like the same age that like Avatar is now. So like it's kind of funny.
I think Nausicaa much more beautiful than most of Avatar, but so these two episodes, that both of the part 1 and 2, they're animated by DR Movie, which I explained the DR Movie JM last podcast, but I was like, part 2 is animated by DR Movie. It really looks like a JM episode. So I was pleasantly surprised. I think it's possible JM took a pass over it or something. I don't know. But, the big difference to me so far, the DR episodes have had like worse character models. The faces and stuff haven't looked as good. But part 2 looked really good. And so I was pretty happy with that. I continue to be really impressed with the like the watercolor style backgrounds in all the episodes. I think that's just so incredible. There's some amazing ones in these this 2-parter. Some of the stuff with the fire temple, some amazing backgrounds throughout all that. So I continue to love the animation. I don't know, Delaney, what do you think compared to like more contemporary shows? Does it look old and bad, or does it just look old and maybe good?
So the only for me, I think it looks old and good. Granted,
We're also biased.
I'm extremely biased. I will say, like, it is kind of difficult to compare it to, like, Korra and Studio Mirror, which is, like, to me, breathtakingly beautiful. My eyeballs are, like, seared with beauty watching it. But, and I didn't watch it growing up with, like, this, like, appreciation for, like, the art form. Watching it now, I definitely, the backgrounds, and for me, it's more like Avatar just has this, like, incredible, like, ambiance to it, like, when you're watching it. I will say that, which unfortunately Sam is not here to comment on this, there's like some jank CGI with doors. I don't know why they do this.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's true. Sam would have commented on that. Yeah, I remember.
So of course I didn't really like
the fire door open. Oh yeah, well, isn't it? Was it just the fire door? Or did we also get the door in the Southern Air Temple? Also,
the door in the Southern Air Temple, jank. I'm like, what is this? Like, I'm like, what am I looking at? Like, it's just so jarring. Like, something I would not have noticed growing up. Maybe wouldn't have noticed like 10 years ago, but like I'm like, what is this? Like, and it's just doors. Like,
it's the weird door opening CGI. It's true. So we can try to track the CGI.
And I think it's also because like this is 2D animation, and then like the doors are like weirdly 3D for no reason. Like,
right, and Avatar like has that really old hand drawn feeling to it. So
yes, which I appreciate.
Which I'm loving, but the CGI definitely like feels a lot more out of place. It's like when you're watching, I will say, Spirited Away, the goat does have a few CGI scenes, and it is a little jarring in there. That being said, the CGI is much better in that than these door scenes. But I didn't like hate it or anything seeing the fire door open. I thought it was fine, I guess.
No, I will say the most egregious is definitely the door in the Southern Air.
That was worse. Yeah.
And then I think it might have been in Imprisoned. I think the 3 doors when they seal Katara in. I think it has a similar.
Okay, I didn't know if I noticed that one.
It's not that bad, because it's not like we're gonna watch the mechanisms of this door like operate, and it's weird looking. But I think they had the same thing. I'm like, what is it with doors? Why do we CGI animate these doors?
Yeah, it's interesting.
I think it's just the motion's easier to do in CGI. Yeah. It's probably less frames that you have to.
I think it made it a lot easier for them. I agree. Yeah, I want to say from before, Heibai seemed very No Face. Speaking of Spirited Away, inspired to me the design. So yes. I think a lot. I think maybe Mononoke also messaging some spirit. Yeah. Anyway, let's quickly talk about before broader topics. Roku, the Sozin's Comet. We get the mandate on. How about the portrayal of the spirit world as well? Because I've talked about this before, how I think the spirit world evolves throughout Avatar. They kind of find different footing of it. So in episode 7, the spirit world is just the same as our world, except Aang's like blue and invisible. The only thing is when he sees Roku in episode 8, he is in like a specific place. I guess this is the spirit world. I'm not sure to what extent this is supposed to be the spirit world we are to see at the end of season 1, or if this is just kind of a special thing for Roku's temple.
It did feel like the part 1 spirit world was actually, I guess I should forgive the Netflix show a tiny bit, because it's like, actually, yeah, that's kind of what it was in that episode. I mean, obviously the Netflix show knows how they want to portray it and stuff, but that was pretty spot on for how it was portrayed in that episode of the show. So
I think if we want to like defend a retcon, we also are dealing with we are coming close to the solstice where the worlds begin to blur.
Yeah, and that is
So
true
that could
too.
be
So
an
it's kind of the
explanation.
rules. I would say at this point, the rules of the Spirit World are very unclear, and even how it normally manifests. I agree. There's the solstice happening, and then when we see Roku, it's in a doubly special circumstance.
So like, the crescent-shaped island? There's the volcano. Is this where Roku lived? Where we see him stop the volcano, or fail to stop the eruption, and he dies?
Well,
I think so.
Is this
I
the
guess-
same
Pretty sure
location?
that's it. Yeah.
we'll
Okay,
see
that's
when
what
we
I'm wondering,
rewatch
'cause,
that
like, when you're-
episode. You know.
It's true. In 27 episodes,
More
Yeah,
than
quick.
that.
further.
Yeah.
It's more way than that. But when you're talking about like where are we when we're talking to Roku, I don't know. Like he's just like this is. Honestly, they might be at the heart of the volcano. I don't know. It's like weirdo stuff in there.
Yeah. What do we think? Any thoughts on the Fire Temple, the sages, Shayu?
I love this. It's great.
Like
Love
the
it.
location. I don't think the sages do a ton of stuff, and then they get blamed at the end by Zhao. That is another notable Zhao thing.
I did think that was funny that he was like, save your stories for the Fire Lord. And it's like, yeah, they're just going to tell him that Shayu did it. Like, this is such a...
To be fair, Ozai is going to kill all of them.
Do they
Like,
appear
doesn't
again?
matter.
I don't remember.
I can't remember.
The head sage is kind of an iconic
Rest in
look.
peace.
I can't remember.
And then Momo steals like their hat.
Yes, that's
Mhm.
good. Yeah.
10 out of 10.
I think, and this can start to transition into a broader discussion I want to have, but it feels like we're moving too fast to necessarily do a ton of stuff with the temple and the sages, and we just like we're there and we're running for them and we're trying to sneak into the thing. So I feel Avatar's 22-minute runtime a fair bit and stuff like that. We don't really get into the world building surrounding anything with Crescent Island. It's kind of just a cool location, which to be fair, there's not really a ton going on, but. That being, on the other hand, this episode does spend a ton of time, as Delaney said earlier, on the stuff with the door trick. So I think that you could have reapportioned time if you would have liked to done some more stuff with the sages.
Granted, I'm not really sure what else there is. Though, like we're the fire sages, we serve
We
the
got the
Avatar,
gist, yeah.
but also it's like what more is there to say really?
Of note, all three of these episodes, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, do not have a B plot. So this is kind of the discussion I wanted to have was A plots and B plots. I think we talked a lot about this back in the day of, should we be doing B plots, C plots, or should we just have an A plot?
Well, I feel like Ira getting kidnapped.
That was a B plot. Okay. Okay. Episode
agree.
7 does
That's a
have
B
a B plot. And I think that's probably the strongest part of the episode. So,
Zuko kind of has a B plot.
you could argue Zuko briefly has a C plot, maybe in 107. So, but Imprisoned, I think, is a great example of an episode that doesn't really have a B or C plot. There's other characters doing things, but it's all kind of part of the same connected story. That uses it to good effect for kind of this holistic story that doesn't feel super rushed, even if Katara gets on the prison and quickly frees everyone. I
wanted to point out my wife. So we have to keep pausing to take my dog out because she's horrible to watch anything with. So I have paused the Imprisoned, and my wife's like, she is going to start a revolt in 7 minutes.
That's how Avatar
she has
works,
7 minutes. I was like, yes, that's exactly what's
I
going to
think
happen.
some other and episode 8.
It all gets wrapped up in 7
Episode
minutes.
8 uses no B plot to the effect of a continuous action story that I think is the Avatar will use that format for many of its big episodes, I believe. We'll see. But we also have episodes like Southern Air Temple, which a great episode definitely has B plot stuff going on with the Agni Kai and everything Zuko Aro Zhao getting up to. So I think it's interesting to start to track how Avatar utilizes the different story formats here. I do think this was more of a big topic in the day. Now we talk about contemporary shows still have B plots and stuff. So I don't know, Mel, what do you think of how so far how we've seen the different formats being used?
It's interesting because I'm now going back in my brain right, okay, A plot, B plot, and I feel like in the early half of this season, the A plot is always Aang and group are doing something, and Zuko's the B plot, and sometimes it comes together in the end, and sometimes it doesn't. Which I think at times is like, especially in Imprisoned, is interesting because it's like, yeah, ultimately, like he does sort of like, merge, if you want to say that, at the end when he shows up at the prison and picks up the necklace and stuff. But for the most part, his like B plot is pretty, much like the Southern Air Temple is like pretty divorced from Aang's, and it's sort of just character work for him and character work for Iroh. And I feel like it's it's early indications of like, oh, there you go, of their their intent with building out the character and like clearly I think from the very beginning they knew that they wanted him to eventually be sort of have a redemption arc, just because of like certain choices made in these first couple episodes. So like the more, like, as we get more characters and go to more places, I feel like the B plots get a little bit more, or going to get a little bit more diverse and varied. But like in the early parts of, the early times of the show, it was very much like A plot is whatever Aang's doing, B plot is whatever Zuko's doing. Sometimes they intersect at the end, sometimes they don't.
Yeah, and used to build up Zuko's character. I think that's a good point. How about runtime constraints? Because, you add a B plot, even less time to focus on what's going on in the episode. Have you felt the 22 minutes so far? Has Avatar felt rushed? Has it felt even slow, maybe?
I mean, it's tough with these first episodes because, again, some of them do feel rather slow. Like, I cannot tell you how much I don't like the King of Amash.
It was very slow. That's an
that-
episode that could have used a B plot, but really was just one thing.
Yeah, it was one thing, but like, thinking about like, a lot happens in Imprisoned. Like, Katara, they go to this town, they go to this village. Katara develops a sort of friendship with Haru, like gets herself arrested, incites a rebellion on, that's something that like anywhere else might have been like 3 or 4 episodes of television. And here it's just like we zoom through it and like, for the most part,
7 minutes.
Yeah, for the most part it works because it's like, that's sort of the operating like rule for the rest of the show, right? Like it doesn't feel like it's rushed because the rest of the show is at the same pace. Like I think if if there were like these two-parters are interesting because it's like, oh yeah, okay, like you do stretch things out there to like 40 minutes or 44 minutes or whatever, so I feel like there are times when having those two-parters could make these shorter episodes where a million things happen in the span of 22 minutes feel really rushed. But some of them do and some of them don't. I don't think Imprisoned felt rushed, even though like on paper so much happened in that episode. But like you could easily also like see a world where it's like Imprisoned Part 1, Imprisoned Part 2, and like the emotional stakes of that episode are like high enough that it's like you could see justification for building it out and that sort of thing. So it is interesting to think about like what they chose to keep as these 22-minute episodes and what they chose to break up into two-parters.
So in book 3, oh yeah, the Boiling Rock is 2 parts. They literally do that later.
And that's one that I'm like, I don't know if that needed to be.
I just heard them talk about that on the official Avatar podcast. They had the writers on. They said originally it was going to be one story, but before they started writing the scripts, they just thought they had too much to do, so they broke it into 2. But they kind of originally conceived of it as one.
Because like really, Imprisoned is like it's like Baby the Boiling Rock, which was kind of all I could think about. Also, other than Toph and Flat in this place, I was also just thinking of the Boiling Rock.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that and it's also interesting that they were like, well, maybe it should have just been one.
It'll be interesting to track how Avatar utilizes this runtime. I think so far nothing's been super. I mean, I think the biggest things are Southern Air Temple felt pretty rushed, but it was still a great episode. And then for the most part, these 3 episodes I think feel pretty well paced. The ones that we're talking about here, other than like minor grievances that we discussed with Delaney aside about maybe we could have spent some more time here or there, But I think this part 2, we have the big scene with the blockade. We introduce the fire temple. We do cool stuff there. We meet Roku. We explain something with the show. We get a lot done in 22 minutes, and it doesn't feel super rushed, I don't think. So I think good stuff from Avatar early on. And I'll bring up this question again that I brought up last time is I've heard people say Avatar's a great show. You should watch it. That being said, first 10, 11, 12, whatever you want to say episodes, not that great. It starts to get good later on.
Disagree. Hard.
Yes. You would expect us to disagree, but Delaney, do you think from what you've seen so far, not true?
Yes, and I was kind of also going back to like you're talking about like time constraints. Like I feel like animation we're like on this parabola where like we started like 22 minutes and then we went to like these 11-minute shows, which is like bananas looking back, and then now we're kind of back to 22 minutes. Yes, and of course there's also kind of the confusing like here are 2 episodes in 22 minutes, and it's like kind of gets mixed back and forth between like is this really 2 11-minute episodes, or is it kind of like it gets blurry? But I don't know how, especially honestly with 7 and 8 with the Solstice Part 1 and Solstice Part 2, how can you say that this is like bad or like it doesn't start like for me this is where like this is world building, like I know like you were talking about, which we kind of skimmed over a little bit. This is the show. This is you have to master the elements by Summer's End. Like this is a big deal. Like this is like the whole
and
thing.
They don't set it up until episode 8, which is really it's a kind of a bold move. Netflix extends it even further before they set it up. Or I guess they get rid of it kind of. But anyway.
Oh, they were just like, JK,
I guess
it's
they
not
had
real.
to. But I wanted to talk about and it should be noted, this is a 2-part episode, but it's not really, it doesn't feel like one story broken into. It's kind of just...
it's really just more like, this is like one, like... The solstice is kind of... Basically, we are aware of the solstice, and then we are here... The solstice is here. That's what these 2 episodes are about.
I did want to talk about the timeline of Avatar, something I feel like we never really appreciated before or talked about that much. So you have to the comet's coming by Summer's End, and I did notice earlier episodes there's kind of snow everywhere, maybe in the Southern Air Temple. It seems like we start off in winter, maybe late fall. I don't know. I'm sure this is canon outside of the show, so I'm sure that there's like extra information that confirms the exact timeline. But I feel like I never really thought about, okay, we start off in winter, and so the show kind of takes place over the course of 8 months, I guess, or something like that,
I thought it was less than that because the Southern Air Temple is very close to the South Pole. I think it's just snowy because it's where it is.
I think I always assumed that it was supposed to be winter because, like, and I don't know if
I think Kyoshi is also snowy. That is another.
Kyoshi is also snowy. We don't really see either way in Amashu, and later they confirm that it's supposed to be like winter, spring because it like also lines up with like elements as well. But like, yeah, I think it's supposed to be like whatever time in the winter, and then by the time they get to the Earth Kingdom, because even Katara, she says when they stop at Kyoshi, hey, if we keep this pace, we're not going to get to the Northern Water Tribe until spring. So it's it's supposed to be winter.
Well, and also if we want to, there's this whole like this isn't Earth, but if we want to like assume Earth and it's the winter solstice, like and like how time works, like if we want to assume there's 12 months and like or just seasons in general, like
we don't know their break how they do seasons.
That's a very Dylan point there from young me point.
Like
remember the Punnett Squares?
We could talk about that if you want. Let's do a random fandom topic at the end. So I think at one of these episodes, Katara mentions it's been a few weeks since something else. I feel like so I'm interested in tracking time here. I feel like we've maybe skipped over a lot of essential bonding time early on. But I guess that's inevitable in a TV show. But on it, so if it's like, is early Avatar bad? If anything, I want to spend more time doing nothing on this rewatch early on. Like I want to see these foundational dynamics between Katara, Sokka, and Aang even more so.
Like some of the stuff I love is like, oh, we need like when they have to like brush Appa out in the river, or like even some stuff when Sokka's like, if you want, you could give us some money and like some stuff. And it's like, what? We need money. Like we need food. We were eating nuts 10 minutes ago. Like, come on. Like that kind of stuff. I love stuff like that. And even like the waterbending scroll, which just starts off, they're like in a shop and they're haggling.
Did you get to that on the rewatch, or do you just remember that?
Oh, I just remember that. I love that episode. Okay. You don't understand. It isn't printed.
I feel like
I have not gotten.
We get a lot of that road trip stuff in the beginning of season 3, because the beginning of season 3 is just working up to Day of Black Sun. So like all those episodes are kind of like these like filler like road like this week we stopped at this place and we're doing this and like here's where we're camping out. Yeah.
That'll be good.
Granted, that's happening like deep into the relationships and stuff, but
yeah. So.
Or it's like when they're like, Sokka, get up, and he's like, I don't want to, and he's like, there's a snake in here.
Good, yeah, that's funny. Yeah, that's funny. So I don't know. I've been considering I loved Imprisoned so much more than before. The other 2 episodes I think also good. So I'm still feeling pretty good about early Avatar. I think it's held up still. I'll say. Anything else on Haru or Sozin's Comet? Not Haru, Roku, but also Haru if you want.
No.
I feel like Roku is kind of like a non-entity in the beginning, and then like we'll get more into like more fun Roku stuff. I also think it's really funny. He's just like, "Hi, Aang, I've been waiting for you." Like he's just back there chilling. Like, when are you gonna talk to me, homie? Like, hello.
He's fine. He's Roku.
Well, it's also kind of like something I don't think gets mentioned a lot. Which this kind of starts in the Southern Air Temple, which they keep referencing. By the way, my wife loves previously on Avatar. Every show should do this. Like, don't they know I don't remember?
They definitely
anything?
did not do that back in the. Yeah. That's like a new function.
They added it later, right? So I guess some copies of these episodes will have it. So I'm watching the Blu-rays don't have the previously on Avatar for this, so I'm not getting that.
Yeah, the ones on Netflix though. Okay.
The Netflix, and I do remember that not all of these episodes had them. I remember like only certain episodes. Like,
right. So I think
it would be like the 2-parters.
Yeah, the 2-parters, and then at some point, didn't we start getting it for every episode? But it definitely wasn't book 1. Probably not even book 2. And
no, I feel like it was like very much like maybe a late book 2. I definitely remember it in book 3. Granted, in book 3, they were like, "You remember this thing that happened like 25,000 years ago?
We need to put Haru and stuff in the previously on." What is there even?
Remember this character?
So yeah, Avatar's been pretty episodic so far. That should be noted too. Like not a lot carrying over, except for maybe the 2-parter here. But I don't know. I've liked this format. Yeah, I think 3, 4, and honestly 6 have hit super well for me here. Appreciated the premiere as well, and this 2-parter. So all good stuff really early on in Avatar. Any other thoughts specifically on these 3 episodes?
Well, I just want to say I was stressed, like, to start the rewatch, because something you mentioned in the first pod, this is very emotional, like heavy, and I'm like, do I want to deal with this right now? Like, there's a lot of like weight, and also kind of some of the reminiscing is like good, and some of it is bad. As someone who grew up, not necessarily around people who like my family and stuff, like we all watched Avatar, but like I didn't like have people to talk to, like when I was like a kid. Like about stuff, and like sometimes remembering stuff like that, it can be hurtful. And I was like, do I want to deal with this? And then, but nice. I'm really enjoying watching it. Like I all the episodes, it's just nice. Avatar's very comfy. It's not as like stressful as I thought it was maybe going to be. Granted, we'll wait when we get to the jet episode, and I'm going to have like a meltdown because
Haru was not stressful for you though.
No, and I do, and that's part of it's also like, I mean, this sounds silly, but like I'm a rabid Katang shipper. I'm like, 10, like losing my mind. And I was like, do I want to unpack that? Do I want to deal with that again? I'm glad to know that it's not that serious. Also, it helps watching it knowing that they get together.
No so stress here, yes.
Like, no stress.
We can stress about Taka instead once we get there, okay? Because we still don't know.
God, I'm gonna just leave that box where it is.
We're gonna revisit. We'll have to revisit it. It's the rewatch. We gotta. I feel like I was I don't know if I mentioned this last podcast, but watching Southern Air Temple pretty emotional for me. But that's like a pretty emotional episode. Same with Kyoshi to some extent too. But these 3 episodes were pretty chill. I think I don't have like a large.
It also helps that like the episodes are funny.
Very
like, when something horrible's happening, like
I don't have a large attachment. Funny. I didn't have a large attachment to these episodes, so I'm wondering if we get to ones I do have more of an attachment to, if I'll have more of a reaction there. But it's been pretty pleasant, I think, so far.
Like book 3 is going to be fraught. I love book 3. Every episode, people are going to. If someone says a bad thing about one of those episodes, I'm going to lose it. Like
we had some negative things to say about book 3 at the time, so that'll be interesting to set up when we get there.
Oh, fist fight.
Well, yeah, I guess you weren't on with us at that time, so that'll.
I wasn't. I was being a little baby somewhere.
Nothing's changed. Okay. Mel, anything else on these 3 episodes?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
do we want to talk about anything from the fandom? Do you want to talk about Punnett Squares? I don't know if this is the appropriate episodes.
I mean, this isn't the main episode. I feel like
what's the main one? Do you remember?
Well, it's not even that. You did the Punnett Squares to figure out what the Bender possibilities would be of Aang and Katara's kids.
It's very important. It's very important.
It's extremely important. Also, it's so funny because now we have.
You also said there was a 0% chance that it's a non-Bender, so like that's.
Wow. Okay, but then at the same time, Dylan has been.
What was I right about? Tell me. Yeah.
Vindicated because Boomy turns into Airbender.
Like, that's true. Yeah, eventually, so, like, eventually, right. But okay, let's.
And then you have to have like an asterisk, so you do the Punnett Square. And then you have to have an asterisk for. Like,
but his genetics math is what was wrong. Like he became a Bender later because of like.
Well, okay, let's set this up. So, we're 14, and Delaney's even younger at the time. I'm in whatever science class learning about Punnett Squares.
Oh my god, you're in freshman biology.
I feel like this was even
we were learning Punnett
Squares. I think it's maybe even from middle school.
This is like prime Punnett Square.
It's prime Punnett Square time, yeah. And so I'm learning all about this, and you put the genetics of the parents you met, and you find the recessive and the dominant trait.
Capital letter and the lowercase letter.
So I'm like, okay, I'm going to apply this to bending. If the parent is one Bender, the other parent's another Bender, you can determine in the square what the probability of the bending nature of the child will be.
It's like midichlorians, like you're midichlorian.
I guess I was unknowingly midichlorianing them. So I made this whole post. It was the most important forum post I ever made, I think. And maybe it was a Damgufeng post I made. I don't remember. And it was a big deal, and I talked about it a lot on the pod. We had several Punnett Square podcasts, I feel like. And so, look, the answer was I right? No, because bending is not genetic. I believe is the canonical.
Also, aren't Punnett Squares like kind of disproven?
I think they're probably not even true. Yeah, I don't know, but we're learning about them in school. They teach you all kind of unproven stuff.
And we want to be real technical. The certain things like you can do Punnett Squares on because some things are gene controlled, but if you have like more than 2 genes, you can't do it. So one, there's probably
Mike and Brian ultimately decided it was not clear during Avatar times how this worked, but once we got to Korra, it was clear that it was spiritual based bending type, some type of thing. It wasn't genetic at all. It seems like. I
don't know. So I think there's like. I don't see any evidence in Korra that it couldn't be genetic.
What's interesting is I just said that, and that was like from the deep recesses of my memory. It's like, okay, I know based on what Mike and Brian have said that it's spiritual and it's not genetic, but I don't really know what I'm talking from. I just know that I knew that. So I'm
fine accepting that at face value, but like if you watch the show,
it's probably not clear watching Korra. So the question is if there was like if.
So if you have, look at Bolin and Mako. That's literally, they're like, this is genetic. Like
obviously, all the new Airbender stuff is spiritual based, and that's
the new Airbender.
Well, and wasn't it a thing? It was like before the Airbenders got massacred or whatever. Like everyone born in the Air Nation was a Bender. Like there were no non-Benders because they were so spiritual. So that kind of suggests it's a spiritual.
I think that's what they're going for.
I do wonder though, so like we're just going back to the Punnett Square thing, just because I'm fascinated because this is so annoying. So when you so if we base it off like the population, non-bending would be the dominant, right? Like there are more non-benders than benders.
We don't even know if that's true.
I don't know if it's
could be
I don't know if it's dependent on
50-50 split.
Eventually we learn there's more non-benders. I don't know if that affects the Punnett Square math, in terms of who's more populous.
It would determine it based on because then to be a Bender you have to have 2.
I don't remember if that's what I did.
I was just doing
was that what I said at the time?
That's what I wanted to know.
Anyway, I feel like an interesting question is what if there's 2 waterbenders who have a kid in the Earth Kingdom, could they be an Earthbender? If they're like
the child is literally born in
a separate and then is raised in a separate location, because with language learning in real life. Where you can acquire any language depending on what you're exposed to.
Or if they're let's say the parents are really let's take Iroh for example. Iroh is a very spiritual person, and let's say he is transplanted into a different nation Like, let's say you have two waterbenders, and they are like very spiritually connected.
Yeah. Did Korra answer this question? Is what I like. I don't remember.
No.
I guess we'll get to Korra. We'll find out.
No.
But
no, Korra's literally just like,
the interesting thing with
more
Korra
like
is that people are in Republic City of all bender types, right? So you could see stuff like that happening.
Yes, and it's like cosmopolitan. It's like kind of the natural evolution of, which honestly I wish they would have got more into. It's like, okay, yes, the Fire Nation occupied the Earth Kingdom for 100 years, but also like people lived here and like had lives and like created families, and then you get a family like Mako and Bolin where you have both.
Yeah. So I don't. Maybe.
I'm fine with being spiritual. I will say, other than what Mel said's really good about the Airbenders. There's like nothing to back this up.
I don't know. We'll see as the show goes on. We'll remember more things, and then we'll see what they do at Avatar Studios. Probably most importantly, I guess, what they do moving forward with this sort of thing, because the next Avatar show, the world's even more globalized. Potentially, you see all types of benders and living in different places and having kids with different types of benders.
There's like, you're like in Ba Sing Se, and they're like, here's Little Fire Nation in Ba Sing Se.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting. So I think that would be cool to watch as the series progresses. We'll see if this was brought up by was this just a Katang thing, or was this prompted by anything from Avatar? I don't remember if we'll see anything in the episodes that gets into this sort of bender math, but yeah, that was a fun thing. I do think we did podcasts on this, so we could go back and listen to what we thought at the time.
Also, I don't know if you've mentioned this, but if y'all go back, you can listen to like tiny, high-pitched Dylan voice. It's amazing.
Yeah, who is the higher pitch, me or Aang or Katara early on? Probably Aang, but
that's like all I was thinking about listening to the first pod. I was like, oh my god, you need to mention that like everyone has like little baby
obviously
voices.
We're younger in the first podcast. Yes, you're probably the same. No, you were probably baby or two. Let me see our topics. Anything else we need to go over? Anything else from Iroh's backstory? I guess we didn't talk too much about that. The specifics. Oh yeah, and I
was just thinking like what happened to his wife.
Well, it's interesting because I feel like they don't have the Lieutenant story.
It doesn't seem like they really found that yet. Yeah, I agree. But he says here that what prompted him to stop the siege, and either they're holding that back, or they haven't thought of it yet. I
was like, I'm not going to trauma dump on these guys who just kidnapped me.
He does more so in the Netflix show in the spot, I guess. Notable this episode written by Aaron E. Haas, the head writer, and I think we've talked about in the past that we've heard that Iroh's backstory more of a thing from him, so I guess that originates this episode. And it is something that they've never gotten into since Avatar, more about Iroh. So it's interesting if Avatar Studios would ever get into that, considering it seems to be more of something that Aaron was originated from him, and he didn't continue on to Korra. But
which is interesting because how they use Iroh in Korra.
Yeah, which I don't remember that much. So
he's in the spirit world, chilling.
So that'll be fun to get to all that too. Anyway.
Yeah, it's in the Baby Korra episode.
I had not thought of Baby Korra in a long time. There you go. Very important.
It's really important. Well, I have to. This was something I forgot to mention. So I haven't rewatched Avatar in recent memory. I have seen the entirety of the Legend of Korra upwards of 4 times. Like it's somewhere between 4 and 8. That's
how most recently out the when though.
Most recently would have been like 2015.
Okay, I mean that's a long time.
Because I showed everyone in college.
Time,
everyone
since
in college.
You've seen Korra.
I will say I did not manage to finish Korra with my wife. We are going to do that eventually.
We're going to get to Korra in the rewatch, hopefully.
We got to book 2, and then it just didn't.
I mean, look, I've seen these Avatar episodes, even though I haven't seen it in 10 years. I'd like to think I've seen these like 10 times each. Maybe not that much, but
there are definitely certain episodes of Avatar I've seen.
No, that's true. Gave It 2 Lovers, I've seen probably 50 times. So it depends.
Headband. I'm putting the headband on. We're gonna watch the headband for like 2 hours. So
this Imprisoned, probably I only saw a few times. So it depends. We mentioned Iroh seeing Aang in the spirit world. Do we follow up on this? I don't even remember.
They
know
mention later on that he went to the spirit world, like towards the end of this season, because he's like talking about the like Twee and Law stuff, and they're like, oh right, yeah, you went to the spirit world after, you know, and I think the implication is he went there after his son died for those reasons, but we never see it, and like after that, it is not really. It does not come up again.
And then maybe talks about it when he has like tea with Aang that one time. But like I don't remember really what they talked about.
So
I just remember that.
I have something we talked about in the pitch meeting Avatar Studios podcast is, in retrospect, Avatar proposes a lot of things that they do not really follow up on. I think we start to get that here with Iroh's backstory, but I think it's maybe one of the benefits of early Avatar. Not a lot of like bringing up heavy lore to have and it's a weighty thing. I feel like you can either do a lot and it's good with it, or it can fail spectacularly if the more things you kind of bring up. So there's like kind of this weightlessness, I feel like, with this early Avatar. Not a lot of stakes, just kind of establishing the world and everything. I think it's been fun so far, but
well, you have to start, like, the more details you have, the more you have to start juggling.
I think starting with this episode 7, they're juggling a lot. I think so. But that being said, the Roku stuff, very, very pretty simple, everything they're introducing. So it does stand out. Everything with Iroh's backstory. It's like, oh, he had the siege and he stopped, and what went on there, and then you see Zhang, what went on there. So it's definitely some intriguing stuff with Iroh. I am interested to see how we react to this kind of type of thing with Iroh that's brought up and not followed up on. Will I like it as much as before? I feel like we had this reverence for it before, you know, or is it just like annoying that it wasn't something followed up on? So we'll see there.
Where's our Iroh book?
That's what I'm saying. They haven't done too much with him.
They're like, here's this Avatar Roku book no one wants to read. Okay, but like, what about Iroh though?
Good thing Allie wasn't on when you said that. Look.
Allie didn't care about Roku either. I wouldn't want to set her off though, because more stuff's coming out with the Roku book, and
okay,
it's gonna be bad.
Mel, any other topics you want to bring up here?
I mean, there's so many, but we've got so many episodes to get through. So.
Anything else from these 3 episodes, or anything we've talked about specifically to follow up more on?
I don't think so.
This is the first mention of moon peaches.
Oh yeah, we hear moon. Yeah, I'll give Appa moon peaches. I guess that's the peach that Aang had in the beginning, was a moon peach for Momo.
Maybe that's the only type of peach they have in their world.
Briefly, I talked about filler episodes. I brought that topic up last podcast, introducing the fact that was a big thing in our time. Filler episodes, they're so annoying. Yeah. So I think, considering I loved Imprisoned a lot more, which I think is a filler episode, I do think it does so much despite not contributing to the overall plot. I think it sets up so much world building and character stuff. So at least here, seems like a dumb term. Obviously, more of a character specific episode, but we'll see what we think when we get to Great Divide in terms of filler episodes.
I feel I have grown from Steven Universe times, and I don't think it's fair to label episodes in such a way unless it's like literally an episode recap. When you know, like in Korra, which was like whatever. Oh my god, I can't believe you remembered the name of that episode. Yep. Also, another thing, the episode names are they're not spectacular in Avatar, but they're still way better than the episode names in Korra. Oh my god,
as much, but Night of 1,000 Stars. Okay, we'll see. We'll see what we think of that.
Well, season 2 was that's like a tough place to pull up subtitles.
Season 2. Oh.
Yeah. Delaney, any other topics you want to get into?
I could look at the outline.
Wow. First time looking at the outline right at the end of the podcast.
I logged in on my wife. This isn't me. I'm Tanya. All right. Tanya's on the outline.
Good information. Any
I was just like, why is the Catra in the corner?
Any Haru parting words, as we won't see him again for a while?
I mean, good luck with your mustache, bro.
He was so cute here. He doesn't need the mustache, Haru.
It's also weird because I feel like when he comes back with the mustache, are they trying to imply that he's like actually why is he aged like 10 years And no one
I
else
guess he's
has.
older in this than them. He's maybe, let's say he's like 16 in this episode, so now he's 17 or something, and he's like, oh, now I'm a man, or
So like, okay, now here's the more important question: does Zuko shave, or does he just not
he's
have
a
facial
baby. He
hair?
doesn't have.
I assume he shaves his head.
Yeah. So he has access
True,
to a
you're right.
razor. We know that's confirmed.
Oh, he could do a rock and hardcore. I'll never forget him
man.
shaving his head with a rock. That
That'll be
was
fun to
crazy.
There you go. Yes. Any final thoughts on these episodes?
I enjoyed them.
Fun stuff so
Good
far.
stuff.
So next up we have, let's scroll down on the Avatar Wikia. We have waterbending scroll right away. That's gonna be fun. Jet and Great Divide. Oh my goodness, this is a great pairing coming
Oh
up.
man, and the Great Divide. Oh man, all three of those at once. I'm gonna die.
What episodes is it? Because then it's me. Well, we'll get to it. When we get to it.
And then after, then
I might have to write in for Jet. I might have to
you
go.
can
I need to share
give
these
Jet
thoughts
thoughts
and
if you
feelings.
watch it beforehand. But then we get the Storm, Blue Spirit, and Fortune Teller. So
Blue Spirit. Oh, Fortune Teller. I don't want to
I'm
go
so
through that
excited
again.
for the Fortune
No.
Teller. I'm so excited.
No, that episode stresses me out. It stressed me out as
Yeah,
a
we'll
child.
see
I'm
what we
not
think
prepared.
of the Katang there. So there you go. Let us
and-
know all your thoughts. Podcast at overlyanimated.com. Leave a comment on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to youtube.com/overlyanimated. And you can also consider supporting us via Patreon, patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to our patrons, especially our patron podcast, Steve. And thanks as always to our patron executive producers, Steve, Michael, and Phonician. I think patrons are getting these early. If you're interested for book 2, that might happen as well. We'll see. So benefit of being a patron here. What are we going to end on?
Oh, are we
That's
doing
where
that? Is
End
that
on
the thing?
Peaches.
I didn't get the last 20 minutes of the
Yeah, you
first
didn't know.
pod, so I didn't know.
What'd you say?
Moon
Moon Peaches? Yeah.
Peach
That's a
works
good
for
one.
me.
Okay. Thank you guys for listening. 1, 2, 3. Moon Peach.
Moon Peach.